everybody, welcome back to another episode of Squares for Squares. I'm your host Neil. Today we'll be looking at a couple of different books here. Superman number 1000. Man, I can't get that out. Superman number 1000. There we go. XMen Gold number 26. Skyward number 1. And Batman number 46. So we'll start off with Superman number 1000. Not a single story here, more of a compilation of stories. We have stories by Jeff Johns, Brian Bendis, and let's skip. I don't remember the last one there. Scott Snyder. There we go. And then we have a couple of different artists on here, most notable being Jim Lee, Raphael Albuquerque, and Oliver Coipel. This book came out April 18th and is kind of a lofty price of $7.99. I think most notable about the stories in here is that they've strapped the underwear back on Superman. Frankly, I'm a huge fan of the New 52 outfit. I thought it made Superman look a lot more modern and more imposing, really. I also thought that the design there was really cool, how they kind of pieced it together like it was, some kind of jumpsuit or armor, or even though Superman doesn't really need armor, but you know what I'm getting at. I thought it looked much more modern and appropriate for these times. This is kind of a step backwards into like the golden silver age versions of Superman. I think probably the best stories that are in here are the ones by Scott Snyder and Jeff Johns. Brian Bendis' story is at the end of the book, and it's more of a lead-in to his new series, Man of Steel. So I would check those stories out because they're pretty good. But for that book, it's really not connecting any sort of plot lines or anything like that. It's just kind of one-off stories, just to sort of kind of frame up how important Superman is to the DC universe. So next we have X-Men Gold from Marvel Comics. This one came out April 18th as well for $3.99. We've got writing by Mark Guggenheim and art by Michelle Bandini. We see that Mesmero is back, as well as the AI Sentinel with the nanotech. Kitty and Peter, so Colossus and Shadowcat's relationship, or I shouldn't say relationship, I should say their impending wedding. We see that there may be some cold feet here, which it's kind of like they've done that before. So not necessarily the marriage, but like getting together and breaking up of Colossus and Shadowcat. It's kind of the same old. So I'm hoping that they actually do progress to the wedding and get married. But I think this is just adding a little bit more drama to the situation. So Mesmero again is back. We see him battling Rachel Gray, Prestige. Personally, I kind of like the Phoenix name better. But that's happening. Nightcrawler here is trying to liven things up a little bit with Pete, because he's kind of I don't want to say depressed, but definitely questioning a lot of different things, and again, looking a little bit like he's having cold feet on the marriage situation. So Nightcrawler decides to take him to Las Vegas for a bachelor party, which Peter's just kind of sitting there not really wanting to be there, and everybody else is having fun. He excuses himself to use the restroom, and we see the AI Sentinel is back, and he proceeds to kick the snot out of Colossus. We see some information come out of that AI Sentinel, in that he's saying that they've acquired the target, which apparently is Colossus at this point. So not really sure what's going to happen to Colossus. I think probably we may see that he becomes a Sentinel himself, or something of that nature, where he's being controlled by the AI Sentinel or someone else. So next we have Skyward #1 from Image Comics. This one has writing by Joe Henderson and art by Lee. It's Garbett or Garbe. I'm not really sure which pronunciation is the actual one. And colors by Antonia Fabella. This one is again from Image Comics for $3.99. So the story in this one is that somehow the Earth has become destabilized, and gravity has essentially been turned off. So everybody's kind of floating. But this story starts off kind of almost in like the Disney fashion, in that we see first we see that the dad apparently is involved somehow with the gravity situation, and that as soon as the gravity sort of shuts down, he says something to the effect of, I knew this would happen. And we see what appears to be the death of his wife. She's kind of hanging on to a light post, and we don't see her when the story flashes forward. So she probably either floated into space or what have you. But I think she's either dead, that, or she's become angry with her husband for being involved in whatever turned off the gravity on Earth. We get introduced to the main character, and she's a baby in the early part of the book. We flash forward 20 years later and find that she's some sort of like courier now. But everybody is very used to the non-gravity situation, and really kind of just like just an introductory thing. She faces off against a couple of guys that are trying to mug her, and she pulls a gun on them, and the guy who's trying to rob her says, "You wouldn't dare pull the trigger on that, because you'd be blown into the stratosphere." And she said, "That's exactly what I wanted to do," and sort of shoots the gun, blasts herself way up in the sky, and then when she's getting too high, she shoots up and gets herself to come down. At the end of the story, we see that she's living with her dad in an apartment, and the dad apparently has figured out how to turn the gravity back on. So a good introductory to the book. Lots of different questions about where the mom is, what's the background to our main character, how did she become a courier, what else is she doing, and then there's the story about the dad, which I think is probably the most interesting part of the book. Is how did he know that the gravity was going to turn off? What kind of secret project is he involved in? and what has he done to figure out how to turn the gravity back on. And if that happens, where does everything go? Because there's obviously things that have been started that are specifically acclimated to this non-gravity world. So it's interesting story there, good kickoff for it. Not sure if it's going to be the greatest story ever, but definitely intriguing, and I'll probably pick up issue 2. The last book we have is Batman number 46, writing by Tom King here, and art by Tony Daniel, colors by Tomu More. I think that's how you pronounce it. Again, not sure. Price point here is $2.99. This came out April 18th. So, I haven't been reading Batman. I kind of hopped off for a little while, so now I'm back on since they're kicking off a new storyline. But we see that Booster Gold has traveled back in time and somehow thwarted the death of the Waynes, and this is now when we get to Booster Gold in the story, this is now the present, and he's looking for Batman, and eventually comes across Batman, but we do see kind of like a cool part to the beginning of the story, in that I'm not a Green Lantern fan, so I thought it was really funny that apparently the Green Lantern is infected with some sort of Joker virus, and puts his ring to his head and essentially is daring himself to blow his brains out, and he eventually does, which I thought was hilarious. So yeah, there's this Joker virus that's now loose and infecting people, and obviously the big concern is that it's infecting superheroes with powers. So if you can imagine, like superhero with the Joker's, mentality, crazy. So we see Booster Gold's looking for Batman. I'm not sure entirely why he would be looking for Batman, since he stopped the Waynes from being killed. But eventually he does find Batman, but it turns out that it's not Bruce Wayne. It's actually Dick Grayson, and a very violent Dick Grayson. You see him with an assault rifle and a number of different weapons on his person when Booster Gold discovers him. So he goes to find Bruce Wayne, but Bruce Wayne in this reality is more of the socialite, playboy, hoity-toity rich guy that he pretends to be in the normal continuity, and Booster Gold tries to talk to him about kind of what's going on with the DC universe currently. So Bruce Wayne kind of lulls him into this sense of security by saying, I knew you'd come, and stuff like that. But turns out that he was just trying to set him up, and he destroys Skeets. So Booster Gold no longer has him, and is very distraught that Skeets is gone. And Bruce Wayne basically says, Alfred will show you the way out of the mansion, I don't want anything to do with you. So, and that's where the story kind of ends. But pretty interesting story. I kind of like where this is going. Sort of a dystopian future. I suspect that Bruce Wayne and the Wayne family are part of the elite in this world, and don't really care kind of about what's going on in the normal world with the Joker virus and the superheroes and all things like that. I thought it was pretty cool that Dick Grayson is this twisted, violent Batman sort of paranoid. We get to see kind of why he's gone sort of the lethal route of protection, and that's mainly because the Joker virus is infecting superheroes and not just normal people. So again, like the threat level in this reality can perceivably get pretty high. So we'll see where the story goes on this one, but definitely I think one of the better stories from Tom King. Alright, that's gonna wrap us up for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, feel free to leave a comment. Blast me. I don't know. If you liked it, leave a comment liking it. Make sure you like, subscribe. Let me know if you have any questions about what I read and any of those books. Next time we'll review Venom number 164 and 165, so kind of going back one issue, just catching up on the story arc there, as well as the Hunt for Wolverine number 1. Thanks everybody for viewing. Again, rate it, like it, subscribe to it. But I hope you enjoyed the episode today. Thanks everybody. Bye bye.